right. Hi, Beth, and hi, Dr. Stone. I'm going to kick our presentation off. Let me just get my screen share up. Here it is. All right. So my name is Ronnie, and I'm part of the group that did the gender affirming clothing swap. Everyone will be introduced a little bit later on when Monroe has the team slides, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the research that we did prior to this project to kind of support our idea. So we were inspired by the lack of affordable and gender affirming clothing options available in the city of Missoula. And some research that we did emphasized the importance of discreet and free or inexpensive clothing options for those in our community who may be transitioning or exploring a different gender identity. This quote really speaks to that. It says, "That's the beauty of it. Everyone is free to explore their own styles and try on what they wish." We also spent some time talking about the lives and budgets of college students, specifically those who may have children or who work outside of also going to school. Other areas of our research showed different colleges where clothing swaps similar to ours had been done and were very, very successful. And we found it interesting that these other clothing swaps were often incredibly similar to ours, and our original idea, even prior to some of the research, and that they connected the gender affirming needs of a community to the need-based opportunities there as well. So we also kind of found an ecofeminism connection in this project. Our research supported the idea that women's studies and sustainability are interconnected. And one article very clearly noted that fast fashion and overconsumption is directly related to women's studies and to feminism. This clothing swap and all clothing swaps help to extend the life of a garment that may have otherwise been donated or thrown away. And the need for overall affordable and accessible clothing became apparent with our research. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to talk about the mission statement.
Okay, hi everyone, Alexa here. I am currently in the Lomason, so if there's any background noise, I apologize for that. But I just wanted to talk briefly about our mission of our project. So as it says on the slides, the purpose of the clothing swap was to provide access to and free clothes to create a space that supports people in expressing themselves in a way that feels good to them. So in explaining this, I wanted to give a little background knowledge. So in 2019, the Missoulian reported that Missoula's income inequality is ranked as 33rd highest in the nation. So breaking this down, what this means is that the disparity in Missoula between the top 1% and the bottom 99% of earners makes this the 33rd most unequal income-wise unequal metro area in the United States. And to make matters worse, traditional thrift stores such as Goodwill or maybe even the Salvation Army have been increasing their prices out of desire for capitalistic gain and also reselling practices. And for those of you who don't know, reselling practices or reselling is when people go into thrift stores and buy clothes for a cheap amount and then sell them for a much higher amount. As Ronnie mentioned before me, another large component to our mission was to address the need for inclusive spaces for people to express their gender identity. Because what we wear is often a key part of how we express ourselves, we thought it was necessary to create a space where people could come in and shop and donate regardless of their gender identity, personal style, or income. So moving on to our next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about our team. So going into this project, I think some of us were a little hesitant about being a part of such a large group project with a lot of people. I think one reason that this can often be daunting is that individual responsibilities can become blurred in a large group project. For example, some person might take on more responsibilities than another and feel like they're doing more work. However, we found that having 6 people on a team proved to work extremely well and was actually something that was needed to keep our project running along. So our project proved to be much more physical than anticipated. This included sorting through the clothes and actually transporting the clothes from the Women's Resource Center to the third floor of the University Center, which is where we had our actual swap. I think for this, we needed as many hands on deck as we could. And I think that if there were only 2 or 3 of us, this aspect would have been much more difficult. Also, I think it was great having such a large team to get the word around about the donations and event itself. I think that we all brought in good connections from the campus community and wider community, and were able to reach a wide audience because of how many of us there were. Okay, thank you.
So in order to see our mission through, we identified a couple key elements that we felt were super important. First, it was important to us that the organization of the clothing on the day of the swap was inclusive and not centered on gender. Next, we created a system that didn't rely on somebody's ability to donate or contribute items to the swap. And we also offered a discrete shopping option for folks. Finally, we knew that we were going to need a strong advertising and outreach plan. We decided early on that an important element of the swap would be to organize clothing in an inclusive and affirming way. This meant keeping things super simple, using broad categories for things like shirts, pants, shoes, athletic wear, and just avoiding gender-based or organizing entirely. This allowed people to browse every table and rack without feeling like they were out of place, or like they had artificial boundaries that they had to stay within. The other thing that we wanted to address was the economic inequities and financial barriers that people might face to getting access to clothing that they like or that fits them. Many times swaps require people to make a contribution or bring items to the swap in order to take things home with them. And we really wanted to eliminate that whole swap to shop aspect. And to do that, we collected donations for the entire month leading up to the swap. And as you can see from this photo, we held them all at the Women's Resource Center. And it was amazing. The amount of clothing that we received completely swallowed the office. And it was a really successful aspect of our project to collect donations prior to the actual swap. And the reason this was so great is because with a well-stocked swap, people were able to come in and take as many items as they needed or wanted with absolutely zero reliance on their ability to contribute items. Finally, we also created this discrete shopping option for people. There was a QR code on all of our flyers that led people to this Google form that Monroe created for us. People could tell us their sizes and additional information about the types and styles of clothing that they were looking for. And then we would fill bags for them that we would then make available for pickup at the Lambda office to give people a safe and affirming place to pick up their new clothes.
Hi, so I am going to talk about the advertising we did for our event. First, we had Monroe make these posters just explaining what the event is, when, where, etc. And down on the bottom, as explained, we had the QR code so students could scan that if they didn't want to come to the swap and just wanted us to create a bag that they could pick up at Lambda. We also made these posters for seeking donations that we distributed around campus early, just so we had enough clothing to offer. Lastly, we had the student weekly. We were featured in the email, so all the students were able to see that for an upcoming event. We also had our event posted in the ASUM newsletter. We had a table at the Civicon event a couple of weeks ago, and we're able to market that event. And we had a bin just like asking for donations. A lot of students came to that, so that was good, getting the word out for that. And lastly, we were able to utilize Instagram a lot. We had multiple organizations that helped us share the word. We had the WRC, Lambda, Transvisible Montana, Montana Two Spirit Society, and the UC Marketing share our post. Overall, our advertising, I think, covered all bases around campus and did a really good job getting the word out.
So, on the day of the swap, a bunch of us met at the WRC around 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning last week to start transferring the incredible amount of donations we received up to the conference room that we booked on the 3rd floor of the UC. Thankfully, we had lots of hands, and Ronnie borrowed a very fun, roomy wagon for us to help lug the items with. We lined the edge of the conference room with a bunch of really big tables, and we got to have 4 clothing racks. 3 were distributed in the middle. 1 was along the edge when you first walk in the door. That was super convenient. We were able to hang a bunch of the items. So people who attended the swap, it was easier for them to find things. And, we were able to pick out staple pieces for people. Casey also was able to provide snacks and drinks for everyone, which is greatly appreciated. Once the swap started at 10 o'clock, we had only made a dent in sorting the clothes. We eventually came to the conclusion that we just have to embrace the organized chaos and place the extra items underneath the table, kind of for a choose your own adventure option. We did our best to keep everything organized as possible in the small space so everything would be easy to access as people came through. But you guys know how thrift shopping is. It's literally organized chaos. It's just things are everywhere. Thankfully, we've already previously discussed how we sorted everything, so that really helped. It was just, piles of shirts, pants, sweaters, etc., dresses. People actually brought in a lot of clothes throughout the day too. This was really nice. We were able to keep restocking. There was what we had stocked was always changing. People were so nice and appreciative that came. It was super busy. Like at some points, there was no room to do anything. There wasn't room for us to help stock, which was incredible because we were mildly concerned about getting rid of all of those clothes. But thankfully, we did have a huge turnout. Everyone was really great about spreading the word. Our entire group did a great job. People who attended the swap helped spread the word. We were able to walk around the UC some and sort of poke people, hey, we've got a big clothing swap upstairs. It's free. Just come take whatever you want. But by the end of the day, we still had a lot of leftover clothes at 3 o'clock when the swap ended. Thankfully, we were able to put Shayna's big truck with a cover on the bed to use, and we loaded everything onto that to help transport the extra donations to the Secret Seconds thrift shop. So after the swap, all the leftovers were donated to the WYCA Secret Second shop. We chose them because 100% of their proceeds go to their various programs in our community. They help create real change for more than 3,000 adults and children each year. Based in the Meadowlark, their programs are aimed to end domestic and sexual violence, help unsheltered families obtain stable housing, and transform Missoula into a place where all people, regardless of their race and gender, have opportunities for growth, leadership, and power.
And here's a little video that we put together for everyone to see how things went on the day of the swap.
All right, so on this slide, we have some of our success stories. So I was there during the whole day that we did the clothing swap. So I talked to a couple of people who told us how much this swap meant to them. So one person, their house had burnt down and they lost all of their clothes in the fire. And so they were very thankful and grateful that they were able to pick up some items. So that was really awesome. And then while nobody actually used the little QR code and filled out a form beforehand, we did have somebody come in like 10 minutes before we were actually open and ask us to compile a bag of tube tops, and we helped them to find some clothes that they were interested in, and that was awesome. And then we also had somebody come in and tell us that they had done a clothing swap for their high school GSA, and that they thought it was awesome that we were doing it, and they were super excited about that. So that was awesome. And then just some things we would do differently. So we would love to have collected more mask clothes. So we had plenty of femme clothes, but we didn't have a huge variety of more masculine styles. So it would have been awesome to collect more. We could have, I guess, advertised more specifically for that, or contacted more people around the community. So yeah, that would have been nice. And then, like I said earlier, nobody actually wound up using the QR code to fill out a form. So it would have been, I guess, better if we had advertised it more. Like, I don't know, we could have made specific like social media posts just about that. So that would be used more. We also didn't have any signs in the UC the day of. We just had the signs that we had put up previously, or had somebody put up previously. So we thought it would have been nice to have like a sandwich board in the UC, just, or out front, just saying like, you know, it's happening, it's on the 3rd floor. And then we also could have had signs with like directions throughout the UC to make it a little bit easier to find us. I don't think many people had problems finding us. At least people didn't say to us that often that they had trouble finding us, but that could have been useful. And then another thing that we could have done differently is either just stop taking donations the day of, or after a certain point the day of, or we could have kept taking them but not putting them out, because we had so many clothes beforehand that as people were bringing more clothes, we were just sort of throwing it onto the piles, and it became very disorganized, or sort of loosely organized throughout, which people didn't seem to mind, but that could have been maybe handled differently. Or we could have, instead of saying it was a clothing swap, we could have just said it was a place to come and grab clothes if you need it, and then just collected donations beforehand. And then we also could have emphasized more that it was need-based, because many people came into it thinking that they had to pay, or that they could only take as many items as they had donated. But we really wanted it to just be take as much as you want or need. So we could have advertised that a bit better. We could have, I guess, come to the UC earlier, but we only had the room at 8, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more time beforehand to sort of organize things better, instead of just having them sort of loosely organized. But again, it didn't seem to bother people, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but that could be something done differently in the future if we ever did this again. And then this slide talks about all of our backgrounds. So one thing that's really awesome about this big group is that all of us come from different places and from different majors and different backgrounds. And so we all had different skills and expertise that really brought something to the table and helped our group succeed. So me, Monroe, I'm a WGSS major, and I had some graphic design experience just throughout my personal life and also in different classes. So I was able to create the posters and the QR code that we then distributed. And then Ronnie is an English Lit and History major and a WGSS minor. And she was really awesome. She had connections around campus and had done booking for events before. So she was able to get us the room and get everything set up. And she also brought the cart that we used to transport clothes back and forth. That was really helpful. So that was awesome. And then Shayna is a WGSS and anthropology major, and she has experience hosting community events before, and she also had a connection to the WRC. So she was awesome with setup and takedown. She also had a truck that we used to transport the clothes from the UC to the YWCA, which was awesome. And having the WRC was so amazing. We're so thankful to the WRC for letting us keep our piles of clothes there, because if we had to transport it all there the day of, that would have just been even crazier. So that was awesome. And then Alexa is a WGSS and communication studies major. And she was really good with communication with campus partners and event organizing. So she was really awesome with communicating with partners on campus, getting people to advertise for us, or getting more clothes to be brought in, and also the whole organizing of the event, which was awesome. And then Alexis is a sociology major and a WGSS minor, and she was really great with organization and setup. So she came beforehand and helped organize in the WRC, and then she was there the day of, early in the morning, and helped us bring things up to our our room that we were in, and helped us organize, and that was awesome. And then Casey is a WGSS major, and she has associates in communication and aeronautical science, and she also had a WRC connection, so that was just great. And then she also did a tabling event with Civicon, so just to spread the word to other people who might not have seen the social media posts and posters. So that was really great as well, having her. And I think really all of us having diverse and unique backgrounds and expertise was really helpful. I think if we had even a couple fewer people, it would have been a lot more difficult, or at least we would have all had to work that much harder to get things done. So it was really great. I think we all worked together really well. Yeah, it was just awesome having so many people and so many talented people and people with different skills. So it really worked out well. And that is all for my slides.
And here is our final slide. We just wanted to share some of the sources that we referenced in this presentation and that we also used as inspiration behind the project. I also, I think I speak for our entire group when I say that this has been a wonderful capstone experience. We have definitely all taken the time to express our gratitude to each other. And now I know that we would all like to take a moment to thank Beth for such a meaningful and special experience in the Women's Gender and Sexuality Department. It truly has been great. And we're really grateful for the space that you've created that allowed us to have such a fun time creating this capstone. We would also like to thank Dr. Stone for participating and being a figure in the Women's Gender and Sexuality Department for so many years, and your generous support of the work that we do. Thank you very much. that wraps it up for our presentation. We hope that you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching and supporting us through the completion of this project.